Now, this is our third study in the Mahā Vedalla Sutta. We're going to look at existence and rebirth. In other words, life and death and related topics. We may be able to end the sutta today, but there are some parts I will leave out which are very difficult at this stage. Now, every one of us at one time or another, ask ourselves, what is life? And what is the meaning of life? What is the purpose of life? And so on. And the Buddha gives some very clear teachings on this. After practicing Buddhism, my understanding of meaning and purpose of life also becomes more clear. In very simple terms, when we talk about meaning of life, what does life mean? The answer is found in the first two noble truths. Life is suffering, in a sense that it's incomplete. There's something missing, something lacking. We feel there's something lacking, and we don't know what it is. It is this something. In fact, this word something is very important. And this is a term, very interestingly, is given at the end of the sutta. So the meaning of life is that there's something missing, something we need to complete. Our task is to become a better, a fuller, a whole person. A person who understands body, speech, and mind. Okay, well, that's the purpose of life already. Okay. Anyway, meaning of life, number one, it is suffering in the sense of dukkha, in the sense it is incomplete. Something is missing. We're always looking for something. When we look for something which is not wise, it's negative craving. And there is positive craving when we want something good, right? So we can call that a good kind of chanda, good kind of willpower, motivation. So this is the second noble truth. The second noble truth is that this suffering is because of craving. Now, to take the second sense broadly, we suffer because of craving, because we want this, we want that, and we are never satisfied, but that's quite negative. On the other hand, even if you want something in a good way, it is also suffering. Like you have to work, you have to earn money, you have to make people you love happy, and it's not always easy. Right? People have different opinions and you have conflicts, but we struggle on. So that's a kind of positive kind of craving. We can call that chanda. The Pali word is chanda, meaning willpower. And chanda also has a negative sense when it's used with kama chanda, for example. That it is the kind of desire for sexual pleasure. But here, talking about the positive sense. So, the meaning of life, there is something lacking, and we want to fill this lack. That is the first two noble truths. Purpose of life, meaning what do we do about this? You have the third and fourth noble truth. The third noble truth and the fourth noble truth sometimes are switched around. Okay, in the Mahā Salayatanika Sutta, for example, you have these 3 and 4 switch around. The normal one in the Dhammacakka Sutta, you have number 3, the path, and then nirvana, and then the path. Whereas in the that's called the teaching model. I call it a teaching model. Then in the practice model, in other words, when we practice the path first, and then there is nirvana, right? So number 3 is the path, number 4 is nirvana, the goal. So our purpose in life as Buddhists, or our true purpose in life as a Buddhist, is to practice the path. Now we're going to talk a lot about this path today when we look at these different teachings. And maybe we'll talk a bit about nirvana, not too much though, because nirvana is the goal No matter how much you talk about it, it's not the goal. It's something you have to practice and experience for yourself. We're trying to examine how this happens as much as time and wisdom permits today. So purpose of life for us is to work on our body, speech, and mind so that it will be free from looking for this something, from measuring things, and so on, so that we attain this level of boundlessness. Now, we talk about boundless loving kindness, right? The boundless states, apamanya, the four Brahma Viharas, the four divine abodes, right? So that's one way of talking about it, to attain this boundlessness in life. You notice when you are happy, it's very difficult to talk about it. You feel this joy. And it is this joy that keeps me going for 20 years to go on translating, studying, and teaching the suttas. It's not something easy. It's very difficult. There's always something distracting us, something telling us, oh, you don't have to do this, or you could be wrong, and so on. A lot of negative thoughts, right? So we go on doing it because we feel joyful when we understand things better, when we understand life, understand ourselves, and you also become healthier. You feel good about yourself, right? So these are the benefits. So if you have negative thoughts, it will work on you. You will feel the pain. It will come sooner or later. That is why the Buddha teaches us to avoid negative karma. It affects our body as well as our mind. So basically, as good Buddhists, our purpose in life is to have a healthy mind in a healthy body. Healthy mind, healthy body, right? So the life that we are living now is called a sense existence. Like here you are in section 15 is mentioned, the three worlds. How many kinds of existence are we saw here? You have Mahā Koṭṭhita asking Sāriputta, how many kinds of existence are there? Avuso replies Sāriputta, there are these three kinds of existence, namely the sense existence, kama bhava. Notice kama here means sense, right? Sometimes kama can mean sense pleasure. Here is a broad meaning of the senses. Bhava means existence or state. The form existence, rupa bhava. The formless existence, arupa bhava, right? So our human life, and you see animal life around you, many lives, many kinds of lives are based on the five senses, or maybe less than five in some cases. The human being, as humans, we have five senses. Those of eye, ear, nose, tongue, and body, the five senses, right? Here, Kamabhava, only the five senses are kind of stated. But of course, the mind is always present there. The senses by themselves do not work. They work with the mind. So the mind's understood. So our existence is often called in the suttas the conscious body. Sa viññānaka kaya. The body with consciousness. So the body are the five senses. And consciousness or viññāna is the mind. Now, as we go higher, in other words, when we're able to tame the senses, the five physical senses, we get less distracted by it. We reach the form existence. Form existence means existence that is not dependent on the physical senses. The gods of some of the heavens, for example, they can see, they can hear, but they don't need to taste like the way we taste. They don't need to feel the way we feel, the touch and the smell. They don't need to smell the way we smell, because they can just kind of, with their mind, they can experience all these things in the lower heavens. So that is the kind of what's called form existence. Here, form is like scientific term, form. For example, we can translate as matter if you like. So light is matter, sound is a kind of matter, right? So the gods or the devas, you can call them aliens also if you like. They have this very subtle senses, if you like, which are free from the physical senses. So this is the rupa bhava, okay? And then you have even higher state where these beings do not even have this form, they're invisible. So they're called a formless existence, arupa bhava. So at this level, they're pure energy. So you can't see them, but they're there. Of course, they can assume physical form. Right? Of course, there are funny stories about these gods, the higher gods. When they come down to see the Buddha, they're not able to stand on the earth because they have no form. So it's like they sink into the ground. So they have to like go into some kind of meditative state and solidify themselves so they can stand on the ground. Okay, so these are examples of stories of this kind of beings. So these are the three realms, the three basic realms: a sense realm with the five senses, and the form realm where the body is kind of a purified matter. Usually it's in the form of bright light, beautiful bright light. If you read the Sutta, Mangala Sutta, for example, it is said that devas come and see the Buddha and brighten up the whole of Jeta's grove. So they have this beautiful brightness, this great and beautiful brightness. And then you have the formless devas, the formless beings. They are invisible, basically. They're so fine. They don't appear on earth anyway. But there are stories, rare stories, where some, if these devas, they can take some physical form if they want, but they usually would not do that anyway. They're pure energy, pure energy. All right, so then the next question is, how Avuso, is there further rebirth or continued existence into the future? Then Sāriputta replies, Avuso, further rebirth is on account of beings being fettered by ignorance and hindered by craving, delighting now here, now there, or you can translate in this and that. All right, this square brackets means the previous phrase, now here, now there. You can translate is delighting in this and that. All right. Now this part is explained at the conclusion of the sutta with the word something. We are always looking for something. We create this something in our mind. All right, so we exist and we continue to be reborn because of ignorance and craving. We don't know what we want. So we look for this and that. Looking for this and that is craving. Ignorance is blind, craving is lame. So there is this very interesting analogy where this craving is lame, but craving sees this, see that, and then wants this, want that. Ignorance can't see, it's blind, but this ignorance moves on. So craving sits on the back of ignorance and tell ignorance, go here, go there, and go on like looking for things, right? So we are led by ignorance. We do many things which we do not know. You find if you know Buddhism and you look around, you find almost all religion, they follow all strange things, wrong views, rituals, ceremonies, not to talk of non-religion, like political systems and worldly things. We are led by craving, basically. We are led by what we believe, not what is true. So the task of a teacher is very difficult to awaken these beings to see true reality. Don't get caught up with this idea of the self, wanting this, wanting that. Don't get caught up with the idea of there is something out there and you want it. Don't get caught up with the idea that, oh, you can't help yourself, you need some other power to help you, right? These are the three things that often hold us back from the path, right? So it's the working of craving and ignorance. So how do we stop this rebirth? 17. But how Avuso? Asked Mahā Koṭṭhita. Is there no further rebirth, no more continued rebirth into the future? Avuso, says Sāriputta, with the fading away of ignorance and with the arising of true knowledge, thus there is no more further rebirth, right? So ignorance, overcoming of ignorance means there is wisdom. We understand the true nature of things. We understand the Four Noble Truths. If you like, to be a bit technical, you can say ignorance is overcome when you understand Noble Truth 1, Noble Truth 2. True knowledge arises when you understand Noble Truth 3, Noble Truth 4. That's one way of putting it, if you like, right? So there you are. So this is the roots of rebirth, summarized. Okay, let's go further down to number section 18. Now, Mahā Koṭṭhita asks Sāriputta about the levels of the mind in deep meditation. And what Avuso is the first dhyana, or first jhana. Dhyana is an English word for jhana. Here Avuso, a monk quite secluded from sensual pleasures. Why sensual pleasures? These have to do with karma, the activities of the body through seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, right? The mind overcomes that. Secluded from unwholesome mental states, no greed, no hate, no delusion. So when we sit quietly, peacefully, the mind, the eyes are closed, we let go of hearing, we're at peace, we clear our mind of greed, hatred, and delusion. In time, the mind becomes more subtle and clearer, and jhana is reached. Accompanied by initial application and sustained application, the mind directs itself to the meditation object and keeps it there, sustained application. Then with zest and joy born of solitude. When you can calm the mind, and zest is a kind of active joy, and then there is this joy of body and mind arising because of mental solitude, meaning the senses don't trouble us anymore. The senses leave the mind alone. So that kind of solitude. So here, the what they call samadhi is not mentioned. Here it's just said that the 5 hindrances are no more that the senses don't trouble us. We'll come back to this a little later. So this also is called the first dhyana. First dhyana is a joyful state where the mind is free from the hindrances, basically from the 5 senses. 19. And how how many factors does the first dhyana have? So these are the jhana factors, or dhyana factors, or jhana factors. The first dhyana also has 5 factors. In other words, if you want to describe the nature of the first jhana, how do we describe it? Here, Avuso, for a monk who has attained the first dhyana, there are initial application, vitakka, sustained application, vichara, zest, piti, joy or happiness, sukha, and one-pointedness of mind. ekagata. Chitta ekagata. Okay. Chitta, mind, eka, one, gata, point. Okay. This is not an easy word, because we can split up in different ways. For example, we can also split up as chitta plus eka plus gata. Gata means become one mind. Okay? Or here, in this case, you split up in this way, chitta eka, one mind, and here agata can mean pointedness. Right? So, well, that is to split words. No? So if we look at the word as a whole, chitta ekagata means one-pointedness of the mind. The mind is focused and free from the five senses, free from the five hindrances. This is called the five aggregates. Okay. So once again, very briefly, when we keep the mind, when we direct the mind to the object, that's initial application. When we keep the mind on the mind object, whenever the mind wanders off, we bring it back, bring it back. That's one meaning. Another meaning is to watch the object closely, vichara. Yeah? Then the result is joy. We feel joyful because of this peacefulness. And then this is a zestful, very, very active kind of joy. This has a more peaceful sense of joy. And then the mind is focused, not distracted by any of the senses. So these are the five factors of the first jhana. And as you go higher, you find there are less jhanas, as we will notice in a while. Okay. Now, next part is on those things that prevent jhana from arising. So here you have what called the five mental hindrances. How many factors are abandoned in the first jhana? And how many factors attain? All right. So here, those jhana, those things that are abandoned are the five hindrances, and then these five factors are those that are attained. All right. So now in this question, it's about what are abandoned. In the first jhana, Avuso says Sāriputta, five factors are abandoned, five factors are attained. Here Avuso, for a monk who has attained the first jhana, sensual desire, there you see kama chanda. See, this is chanda here, right? Kama chanda is abandoned. Ill will is vyapada. Now in Myanmar, the V becomes a B. Okay, vyapada. It's easier to pronounce that way, but the original Sanskrit uses a V. Vyapada is abandoned. Sloth and torpor, kinamida, are abandoned. Restlessness and worry, uddhacha, kukucha, are abandoned. Doubt, vichikicha, is abandoned. Okay. Why is sensual pleasure placed first? Because sensual pleasure has to do with the distractions which come from our five physical senses. The five physical senses all the time fighting for attention, wanting us to see something, hear something, smell something, taste something, touch something. And when we cannot get what we want, something nice, we get upset. Ill will arises. And then when you have a lot of ill will, after a while, you feel tired. You feel kind of uneasy. And then in due course, you become restless. Restless, and you start worrying about this and that. And because all these things happen, you begin to doubt. So, oh, I don't think I can meditate, right? So this is what the five hindrances often does to us. So that is why we have to understand what these hindrances are and then overcome them. All right. Now, I'm sure when you look at these five dhyana factors and the five hindrances, you might wonder how they're connected, right? So now the suttas don't mention this directly. This is found in the Visuddhimagga and the commentaries where they kind of pair up the dhyana factors and the hindrances. In other words, if you look at the sensual pleasure, the opposite of it is actually the last factor here, this oneness of mind. Now, this oneness of mind is a kind of samadhi, but not very strong, but it's strong enough to kind of temporarily push away the sense desire that arise to the senses, because we are focused and the senses don't trouble us, right? So number 5 here, one-pointedness of mind counters this sensual desire. Then in the case of number 2, ill will, anger and so on, how is it overcome or prevented? What counters it? It is a piti, it is this zest, this joy. When you're joyful, you don't get angry, you don't get upset. Right? So this is the one. Okay, number 2. Number 3, sloth and torpor is overcome by vitakka, that is directing the mind to something wholesome, directing the mind in the right way, vitakka. And then restlessness and worry is overcome by vichara, that is restlessness and worries is overcome by sukha. Okay, sukha. Because if you're happy, then you become peaceful, you don't worry. Okay, so this is sukha counters vidacha kukucha, restlessness and worry. It's all in the notes, so don't worry if you can't remember them. You look at note 97, it should be there, right? And then doubt is overcome by vichara. Here, vichara means careful examination. Vichara, your mind is focused on this thing and then on this important teaching, and you examine it, vichara. Okay, so there you are, how the 5 hindrances are overcome by the 5 dhyana factors. All right, now we come to the 5 senses. It's like we're going backwards in this case. We go further down now to number 21. Right. So these are the 5 senses which distract us during before meditation. That is the ranges and fields of the senses. These 5 factors, Avuso, says Sāriputta, have 5 different ranges, 5 different fields. They do not experience others' range of field. That is to say, the eye faculty, chakundriya. Okay, so chaku, indriya. The ear faculty, sota, indriya, becomes sotindriya. The nose faculty, ghana plus indriya, ghanindriya. The tongue faculty, juha plus indriya, juhindriya. Okay. The body faculty, kaya plus indriya, kayindriya. Notice here the Sutta language is very exact. It doesn't say body, it says body faculty. The faculty means a functioning, functioning body, not a dead body. All right, same thing. It's a tongue, not just the tongue by itself doesn't function. It's the tongue connected with the whole body and the mind. So these are the 5 faculties. Now, so these 5 faculties have 5 different ranges, 5 different fields. They do not experience each other's range of field. All right. Here, the meaning is this. They do not cross each other. There is, in modern talk, among some scientists even, they talk of something called synesthesia. Synesthesia, sign plus aesthesia, a kind of cross feeling. It is as if, according to some people, they see colors and they hear musical sounds. Different colors got different sound. I'm not. My understanding is that it is not against this kind of experience. we can say there are people who experience colors as sound, for example, or people could taste food and then they say, oh, it's got this color in their mind. But remember, all these experiences happen in the mind. it does not happen with everyone. This is a special phenomena, if you like. So they are not actually, I mean, colors cannot produce sounds, but we can experience them as sound. In other words, the sound arises in the mind. That's the meaning here. All right. So continue this Sāriputta 21.2. Avuso, there are these five faculties of 5 different ranges, 5 different fields. They do not experience each other's range of field. That's to say, the eye faculty, ear faculty, nose faculty, the tongue faculty, the body faculty. Everything repeats itself here just to remind us that it is the oral tradition. And the last question is, what is it they resort to, right? And the answer is, you look at the last line here, go up a bit more, just go up a bit more. Yeah, okay. Avuso, they have the mind as resort. Notice the mind as resort. And the mind experience their range and feel. It is the mind that shapes how we experience this sight, sound, smell, taste, and touch. Right? Notice how some people cannot taste chili. Some people taste things in a different way from others. So it's the mind. The mind records the experience. Okay. So the mind is the resort. The mind, in a sense, defines how we see things, how we hear things, how we smell things, how we taste things, how we feel with the body. So it's the mind that shapes all these experiences. So this is what, this is very basic Buddhist psychology. Okay. All right. I'm going to stop here for a while, and then we about 5 minutes break, and then we'll go on with the conditions of life. Section 22. What are the conditions for life? Okay. Or put more simply, how do we define life? So the first thing is, what are the visible aspects, the palpable aspect? These are the 5 faculties already mentioned. Avuso as to these 5 faculties, that is to say, the eye faculty, the ear faculty, the nose faculty, the tongue faculty, and the body faculty. Depending on what do these 5 faculties persist or exist. So these 5 faculties, here everything is repeated, so just go right down. They persist on 2 things, or 3 things, 2 or 3 things. On life itself, that is, are you, life or life faculty, or vitality, and then there is heat, warmth, right? It's like this life faculty is like consciousness, okay? And this heat is the way the body generates itself. So dependent on these 2 things. This is Sutta talk, very interesting, right? So are you, right? And then here is the heat. Heat is in warmth. Okay. Let's see what's the Pali word for it here. You have usma. Here the Pali word is usma or usuma. Okay. This arises through karma. And Sāriputta continues, heat. See, they are interdependent. Life exists dependent on heat, and heat exists dependent on life. They interconnect and they support each other. They're like breathing in, breathing out. Just now, so we understand the verse Sāriputta said life exists dependent on heat. How should the meaning of these statements be taken? And then here, Sāriputta gives the parable. All right. Okay, let's go down and look at the parable. This is number 23. Avuso, these very life formations, okay, all these aspects we mentioned are called life formation, ayu sankara. They can be felt, and they can be felt from the different states. All right, can they or cannot be felt? This another question is asked. No? Life formations are not states that can be felt. So in other words, you can't feel, you can't directly feel this kind of, I mean, life itself, yeah? Life formation or the life faculty, you can't feel it. It is there. You are it, but you don't feel it. It's like you are in the water diving, you don't feel the water, something like that. And the heat, yes, we can feel the warmth, but this heat that is alive, refers more to like a kind of process, if you like, that keeps the body going. So it generates the kind of heat we can feel, but that inner heat cannot be felt. That combustion of the body, so to speak, how food is digested, for example, you can't feel it. So this is one way of almost like Abhidhamma talk in those in the sutta. Yeah? Right. So next, the question asks about death. Okay, let's look at 24. Further down, yeah. And also, when this body loses how many states, is it then discarded, cast aside, lying like a lifeless log? In simple terms, how do we define death? Death is defined when three things are missing. Also, when this body loses three states, when three states are missing, in other words, that is vitality, ayu or life faculty, the body heat, usma, and consciousness, viññāna. This is interesting because someone in modern medicine, someone may be declared dead. The body is cold, but there's no way of measuring consciousness because this person comes back alive. You know, there are cases like that. That is why we want to be sure the person is dead. So it takes a while just to be sure the person is not dead, because there are these three aspects, and not all three can be measured. Okay. Now, then there is this question about cessation. In cessation of perception and feeling, this is a very high meditation beyond the jhanas, beyond the form jhana and formless jhana. Only the Buddha, Arhats, and some non-returners can meditate. They go to this deep state where feeling and perception are gone. So how different is it from death? All right. So let me just summarize this. Now, in the case of a dead person, it's quite easy. So I think I might as well read it to you. So here you are. Avuso, for the dead, his time is done. His bodily formation has ceased. In other words, the activities of the body, the senses stop working. All right. And further down. Go down a bit more. Yes. The speech also stops, has ceased, subsided. Thought also has, Citta Sankara also has ceased, subsided. No body, speech, no mind. And then remember, we already studied this. No lifespan. The ayu also has ended. The body heat also has cooled down or dissipated, and the faculties are all broken up. Pari, bina, the senses are all broken up, right? So, whereas in the case of a cessation of perception and feeling, the Buddha or the Arhat in deep meditation, body, speech, and mind, they have ceased. Yes, they don't talk, they don't speak, even thought stops for a while, but lifespan is still there, body heat still there, faculties still purified. In other words, the faculties are there, but they don't function the way we know it. So the person is still alive in that sense, but not measurable in modern terms. Okay. Now the next part is a bit deep, so I'm going to leave that part. I'm going to skip. I'm going to go straight down to very interesting section 35. Section 35. And with that, we will close this study. All right, so here we're talking about the nature of greed, hatred, and delusion. Greed, hatred, and delusion. All right. These states are, here you have greed, hatred, and delusion. There are three different words. So they have three different meanings, but their function is the same. Right. So here's the same in meaning, different in name. So you got three different words, but they work in the same way in this sutta. How is that? Lust is a measure maker. Ragoko Avuso Pamana Karano. Pamana Karano. Pamana means measure. In Thai is a pramana, some a kind of a measurement. Karano, maker. Okay. Hate is a measure maker. Doso, pamana, karano. Doso is hate. Hate or hatred is a measure maker. It makes us measure things. Delusion is a measure maker. Moho, pamana, karano. All right. In simple terms, we measure things. In other words, we say, oh, this is better than this, or I want this because this is more than that. So we measure it in this way. We measure things, we measure people also, right? We feel oh, this person is better than that person, I like this person more, and so on, right? It happens this way because of lust, hatred, and delusion. But for a monk whose influxes are destroyed, they are cut off at the root, made like a palm tree stump, done away with so that they are not subject to further growth. Avuso, all the immeasurable freedoms of mind, the unshakable freedom of mind is declared as the foremost. Now that unshakable freedom of mind is empty of lust, empty of hate, empty of delusion. In other words, in a simple way of saying it, the Arhat has removed, uprooted lust, hatred, or hate, delusion, greed, hatred, delusion also can. Yeah? In other words, the normal measure of people. The Buddha looks at everyone in the same way, so to speak. So he sees Angulimala, he doesn't fear Angulimala, he teaches Angulimala so that Angulimala is free from suffering. And he teaches the other Arahats also in the same way as needed. Now the last part is this. Avuso, last is a something. It is not easy to translate, okay? We never see this sentence, something in English, but Pali, in this case, it demands the Rago ko avuso, kinchano. Kinchano, something, something. You know? Hate is a something, doso, kinchano. Okay? Delusion is a something, moho, kinchano. Okay, in simple English, when we have desire, we make something out of nothing. When we have hatred, we make something out of nothing. When we have delusion, we make something out of nothing. You know, you find that sometimes we say very wise things without knowing it. We would tell our friends or we tell ourselves when something bad happens, we say, oh, don't make anything of it. It's not important. It's nothing, right? You're saying a truth which is deeper than the words. And here is the sutta which talks about it, all right? So the rest of the passage is the same as the above. The Arahat who has overcome greed, hatred, delusion has this unshakable freedom of mind because his Arahat is free from greed, free from hatred, free from delusion. He no more measures people and things. He no more make anything out of anyone or anything. Why is this so important? Because people are always looking for something. When they look at religion, they say, oh, there must be a soul. There must be a creator. there are things around us, and somebody must have made this something. But all this somebody, something in our own minds due to greed, hatred, delusion. And when we don't understand this, we start imagining there is something, therefore there must be someone who created this something. Okay, this is something worth thinking about, basically. All right. So the suttas here give us all the answer, but our understanding can be limited sometimes. So we need to think about it. It's not that we cannot understand. The time hasn't come yet, perhaps for some of us. There's certain things not clear. We are trying to focus our telescopes or focus our lenses. So this is a time to remember this teaching on the word level and then slowly build it up with understanding. Now we know this word called measure maker. We know this word called something. Look around in the world, how we experience things and understand it, and you find your life is much better. So the sutta ends here. Okay, now we have about 15 minutes for question and answer.
Thank you, Piya, for the teaching. Now we have a Q&A. Sister Aisin, please take over. Thank you.
Thank you, Sister Ratna. Thank you, Brother Piya, for the teaching tonight. Brother and sister, if you have any question, you can type in the chat box or you can ask verbally. Thank you.
Now these teachings can be quite deep, so just think about it. Anything you're not sure, I try to clarify them. But please understand, no teacher always gives the right answer. Or sometimes they may give you the right answer, but understanding it is another matter. So every session of studying Dharma is for us to focus our own understanding. Teachers can be right, teachers can be wrong. Even when teachers are right, we may understand them wrongly. And when they are wrong, we think, oh, they're saying the wonderful right thing. So it's quite tricky, you know. When you understand the Dharma, then say, oh, this is what this teacher meant. Oh, this is what the teacher should have said. Then you understand better. So it's not who said right, who said wrong, but it is a matter of whether we understand it ourselves or not. And that takes time and patience and wisdom. So asking question is one way of learning from each other. I know there's this big letter K in front of me. Is it somebody or is it just a letter?
Okay, get you.
Oh, get you. Is letter K, is it? Okay.
Brother Piya, there's a question from Venerable Narada.
Okay. Yeah.
Let's spell it out. dhyana. Is it equal to jhana?
Yes, correct. Yeah. The dhyana comes from the Sanskrit. Dhyana, Sanskrit. And the word dhyana is taken by the English dictionaries as English. In Pali, it's jhana, right? So I use the English word for it. Okay. Yes. So it's the same word. When you see dhyana, you can read it as jhana. okay, which is Pali. Because here I'm writing for Western readers, English readers. So I try to use English, like nirvana, Nirvana, which come from the Sanskrit, but it's English. It's found in the English dictionary. So I use nirvana. There are some books they use the Pali, also can, right? Either way.
This not come from Sanskrit? No,
Yes,
this
Sanskrit.
only come from English.
Yeah, it comes from Sanskrit, but it is found in the English dictionary. The big English
Thank you.
dictionary. Yes, yeah. And they don't use the diacritics. Diacritics are those little marks, the line over the A, you know, the
Yeah.
yeah. So they don't
Yeah,
use,
yeah, yeah.
usually they don't use so.
This
So
power.
this is just to make my translation easier to read for the modern person today. All right. And there are some
Okay.
teachers and translators, they use the Pali. That's another way. Yeah. Because I've started using this long ago, so it's a bit difficult to change it. So I use the English word, if there's an English word. Like karma, I use K-R-M-A, karma. Right? Some translators use karma, it's Pali. But why I like to use the English word, it shows that Buddhism is up to date. It is modern. The word is accepted by the modern world. The word is found in the English dictionary. So it is not an old Indian word. That's one advantage we have. Yeah. But some words are very difficult. We cannot simply change into English. Yeah. For example, Buddha, we don't have to change it. It's already, either way, it can be, it is spelled in the same way. Okay. Any other question?
Brother Piya, I have a question.
Yes, Mayang?
Yes, so Piya, so, okay, what I'm asking is that, okay, to follow the path, we give up on so many things. We let go of so many things or pleasures or activities or so many stuff that we do in life. It's like a different path than a lot of people usually normally follow. So in very, very basic terms, what I am asking is that, is it really worth the effort, letting go and giving up on everything for nirvana, especially when we don't even really know anything much about the goal, or if anything at all, because
Yes.
we don't know where we are going or where
Yeah.
we're getting at. So
We
yeah,
don't know what to give up. We don't
that,
know
and
what to give up.
also for,
Right.
for what we are giving up,
Ah,
because we don't know anything really about
No,
nirvana.
that is why we have the Four Noble Truths. We have to understand 1 and 2 first. Now, if you understand 1 and 2, you also understand 3 and 4. There is a saying in the sutta, if you understand any one of the Four Noble Truths, you understand the other 3 also. So you can choose any one. For example, some people, they see suffering, then they start reflecting on it. Then slowly the wisdom grows as they understand, as they're able to relate to that understanding. Okay, so begin anywhere that you find suitable for you. Okay, the basic idea is this: as we grow older, we find, why do so many things when we don't have to do so many things? We can rest and be happier without having to do it. All right. On the other hand, some things we have to do, like in Singapore, we are reminded you must exercise, you must do things, you see. So that again, you got to do in such a way that it is just enough, not too much, not to overdo it. So there is the middle way, in other words. Doing something which is right and good, which helps you. That is the right practice. Moral virtue is knowing what is not good, which we should not do, and which we should avoid. Usually has to do with the 5 senses. Anything through the 5 senses that brings us suffering, we should avoid it. So it's got to do with the senses, protecting the senses so that it is properly used, widely used. The second training is the mind. The mind is a bit more difficult to train, right? So first training is the body. The body deals with the five senses. And then the mind. The mind deals with how it deals with the five senses. All right? And then the third part is wisdom. So you have sila, samadhi, panya. 3 trainings. Okay, any other question?
So Brother Piya, could you speak a little bit more on when you said that we don't really know what to give up on?
Yes. Well, that's the whole thing, you know. If we know exactly where the problem lies, then we don't face the problem. It's because we don't know, because of ignorance, we face a problem. When we don't know the way, we lose it. That's the funny thing, you know. You lose something you don't have. You don't know the way, so you lose it. We must know the way. Then we don't lose it. That's just a way of talking. Eh? And how do you know the way? By walking it, right? By taking that path. So by practicing the Dhamma, sila, samadhi, panya, you know the way. You begin to understand this brings suffering. I should not do it. This does not bring suffering. I should build it up. That is the essence of the right effort.
Is it like kind of feeling your way through as you go through life?
Well, we can say that, yeah, because the Pali word pati sangvedeti means feeling as well as to experience. It's a very beautiful word, you know, pati sangvedeti. Normally, the pati sangvedeti is rooted in the key word there is vedeti, to know. And vedeti, the root word is wit, to know. Just like in English is wit, our wits, you know, and in German is wit. And then you put the E and then the T, vedeti, he knows. And then the sang before that. Sang is like Latin con, meaning putting together. Okay, we know things by putting things together. And then pati here means again and again. Do it again. Pati sangvedeti in Pali means to feel, to know. Right? Yes, so to know is to feel is to know. Feel here has a broader meaning than when we say, how do you feel in English? Yeah, a bit more. Okay, we have about 3 more minutes. Questions? Well, we were away last week. Anna, Chai Sing and I, we went to Malacca for a few days for my nephew's 60th birthday. A very old nephew, 60 years. It's amazing how people grow. You know, I remember him as a little kid, now he's 60 years old. We had this family gathering, amazing. He knows all my friends. So we have like 4 or 5 generations of old friends, you know. I have one really wonderful school friend. Whenever he meets me, he cries because he remembers the good old days. He cries happily. And of course, I meet other relatives. And I think I'm looking old, father-like, and many of the ladies start hugging me. They're so happy. They say, "Can I hug you?" I say, "Go ahead. You know, what's left of me, you can hug." You know, I mean, it's because of old age. It's not I'm going to marry again. You know, so I feel happy that they see that comfort in me, that father figure. I suppose it's always good to know that. On the other hand, there are also old friends who are getting sick. You know, there's a couple very close to me. Both husband and wife are sick, and both are in the hospital, in the more or less in a ward side by side. So that practice of impermanence, you know. Okay, any last minute question? Oh yes, and I also went to my childhood temple, Sekai, you know, went there on invitation. I gave a short talk to the gathering. It's more like a dialogue, you know, with old friends and chat with some really childhood friends who were still there. So it's very nice to know these people are there. go back to this old temple. Right? Yes, any other last minute question?
Brother Piya, did you join in the chanting at Sekyain?
Oh, yes,
They are
yes.
famous for their chanting, I believe.
Yes, my mother's ash also is there. So we want to pay respects to the ashes, and then we joined the puja. Well, when I was there, I used to conduct the puja myself. I'm one of those people as a young boy. Then there was a monk there. And then I traveled a bit. I was in Thailand 5 years. That was really good. 5 years taught me Thai and Pali. Okay, any other questions before we close?
Brother Piya, there's no question in the chat box.
All right.
Mm.
Okay, so we can close now. And it's a time to reflect on this wonderful event today, how we have gathered together from different parts of the world to pay our respects to the Buddha, Dharma, and Sangha through keeping the precepts, reflecting on the three jewels, Buddha, Dharma, Sangha, and practicing meditation. Remember all these wonderful good things and send out happy wishes that you will be well and happy to practice the Dharma and be kind to others, to bring happiness to others. And send your thoughts to others also who are important to you, that they may be well and happy. And now we close by bowing to the three jewels that have brought us together in wisdom and friendship. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Buddhang Bhagavantang Abhivademi. Swakato Bhagavata Dhammo Dhammang Namasami. Supatipanno Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.